Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lori Jones, president of Fidelis Wealth Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
We're here with Kim Collins today. She worked with Compliance Resource Partners in my beloved field of financial planning and compliance. And I'm so excited to have her with you. She's got a really great story just about women building business and women inside the financial services industry. And full disclaimer, Kim just barely retired. And so she's probably going to give us a little bit of what we have to look forward to on the back end of this whole journey. So thank you so much, Kim, for being with us today.
You're welcome. I'm excited. This is good to talk to other women about being in business.
I'm super excited that we get to take this journey. And hopefully we'll be able to encourage other women that are on their path that maybe finance isn't the worst, horrible thing in the world. I kind of find it fun, so we'll see. So I'm a reader. I love any and all suggestions on reading material. So that's my first question. What's your favorite book? What are you reading right now?
I just started a book literally yesterday. It was on my book list. Do you have a book list? Like I keep in my phone, my notes when someone says, oh, this is a great book, I put it down. And this book kept coming up from my friends, my age and younger even. A 20-something-year-old over the weekend said, oh, this is my favorite book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just started reading that. It's called Educated.
Oh.
And I don't know if you've read that, but yeah. So it's about a woman that was in a very sheltered family. And like I said, I just started that, but she steps out and does her own thing and goes and gets herself educated. And I mean, I just got to the point where she didn't even have a birth certificate. I mean, that's how kind of off the grid her family was and didn't want to educate their children. And so, and in their culture, women also did not get educated. So I'm really excited to read about her journey and the decisions and the trials of a young lady that came from a very sheltered family and culture to go, and I think she even goes to London, England to get educated in Cambridge. So anyway, that's what I'm reading.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Yeah, I have it on my my bedside stand. I have that one on there along with 3 or 4 others, but it was scheduled actually to read during my last vacation, and I had a son get married during my last vacation, so I didn't get any reading done.
No, I bet not. I'll let you know how it goes. But I'm really excited only because, like I said, I've had so many people say, you've got to read this book, and of all ages. So that is their favorite book.
Well, I'll put a list together of all the recommendations that I have and stick it next to the blog and the podcast. So I have my to-do list and my reading list.
There you go.
So, well, tell us a little bit about your journey. Tell me where you started, how you got where you are today. Just tell me a little bit about Kim.
So I was a business major, started out in accounting, didn't like it, switched over to finance and had no idea what I wanted to do. But I remember in some of my business classes, I had one on the stock market and I loved it. Had a great professor. So I moved to Colorado and was very fortunate to get a job with the NASD back when it was the NASD. Now it's FINRA as an examiner. And I think I started with them on my 21st birthday, literally.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness.
So I was young.
You were a baby.
Anyway, but it was a great training ground. I don't know if you know anything about Denver in the 80s, but it was the penny stock capital of New Jersey. Wolf on Wall Street. People have seen that. We lived that as a regulator. So we learned everything from fraud, manipulation. People were self-clearing. I did, we still had stock certificates, Lori. I'm really dating myself now when I said we had to go into a vault and do a box count, but it was a great experience, except I didn't want to go work for a penny firm and I wanted out of the NASD. So at the ripe age of 26, I started my consulting business, working with, broker dealers back then, because that was my background. And then as the industry kind of gravitated towards investment advisors, it was very easy for me to pick up the investment advisor rules, knowing all the what are now thinner conduct rules in 33 and the 34 Act. And so that's how I got started. I borrowed $10,000 from my dad to start my business. And I wasn't married. I didn't have kids, but I did have a mortgage. So I bought my first house when I was 23.
Oh my gosh.
Which is also crazy. But anyway, that's how I got started. And then it just grew and expanded. And I ran it for 35 years.
26 years old and you're opening your own business.
Yes, with $10,000.
So did you have anyone that was like, you're 26 years old, how are you telling me what to do? Did you run into any of that?
I didn't, because of course, a lot of these people knew I'd been with the NASD for 5 years. And so that led a lot of credibility. But yeah, I had a reputation, obviously, with them when I was working for the NASD. And so they knew me, they trusted me. And so they really didn't question my being a woman. They may have questioned my youth, but they were able to look past that.
That's what I was wondering. If they looked at a 26-year-old and said, I have actually a younger woman on staff who is working her way up, and she's really good at what she does. But I said, you're going to have to battle that youth for a while now.
Yes, very much so. So you battle in this industry. I battled not only being young, but, also being a woman. So, but it worked out.
When you started, did you start in compliance? You started at the compliance phase?
Yes. So compliance with broker-dealers, and also broker-dealers have financial and operation principles. And so I went and got all my securities licenses. And that also being a financial and operations principle for a broker-dealer also led to, the compliance and just kind of the whole package, right? On the broker-dealer side. Investment advisors don't have the financial requirements that broker-dealers do, but yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I am fascinated by the idea of you being one of one woman that I usually look around and I see 3 or 4 that look like me, at least, in the room. Talk to me about that. What is that experience been like?
Yeah, it was, me and a bunch of men. I've always gotten along with men better than women. And so I think that really helped. I didn't play the drama games, in high school and middle school. And I just, I never understood that. And so I made friends better with men than I did with women. And I think that helped, right? Because I understood them, that I didn't play the games, that they would see maybe women playing in the office. And so that was a natural attraction. And I knew my business. And I think that really helped as well. So you earn credibility with men. And I think the world was changing and men were willing to accept the fact that women knew what they were talking about.
Did you have a mentor or anyone that kind of helped you through those early days or gave you advice, be it male or female?
Lori, no, I really didn't. Unfortunately, my dad, who was a mentor, died about 8 or 9 months after I started my business. He died suddenly of a heart attack. So, and that's who I would call, right, with what was going on. And so, no, I didn't really have a mentor, male or female. There was one woman that had her own advertising business, and she helped a little bit. Nobody in the financial services industry.
So you're basically a trailblazing for all of us right now.
Yes. Or crazy, one of the two. But it worked out. It worked out. So I was fortunate.
So looking back on your journey, what is the best investment you made in yourself? What do you look back and say, ooh, I'm so glad I did that. It totally led to my success.
I was my own person. And like I said, I don't really get involved with what people would say about me or not say about me or whatever. And I pretty thick-skinned. So that really helped a lot to, I think, the success. It's kind of like, if you don't want to work with me, okay, that's fine. I'll move on. I'm not going to take that personally and just move on, because you know what? Men don't take that personally.
Yeah.
And so we can't get all emotional because a client didn't work out or a project didn't work out or they let me go for another consultant. So I think that's what led to a lot of the success.
It's just not having a little bit thicker skin, not taking things nearly as personally.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I could learn that skill for sure.
Women struggle with that one. Yes.
Yeah, they do. I feel it deeply sometimes, but I see your point. Like a lot of times you just understand that it's not you they're rejecting. They just have a different mindset or different personality or different priorities.
Yes. Or maybe they got a better deal from somebody else. I don't know.
Yeah. So what is the worst advice someone ever gave you? And did you take it?
Yeah, I can't. That one is a tough one because I'm not thinking, because I was kind of my own person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't ever remember taking someone's advice that I then regretted. Nothing is coming to mind.
What about if you advice that you didn't take, like you're too young to open up your own business at 26 years old? What are you thinking?
Yeah. My dad never told me that. And, when I wanted to buy my first house at 23, he didn't discourage me, as well. So
that's great. That means that you've had a whole lifetime of supportive, good advice. That's great.
Yes. Yeah, I really have. Yeah. I don't remember any. So I obviously didn't take it if I didn't think, I'm sure I got bad recommendations, bad advice, you should do this. And, but I don't remember ever taking that advice and then being like, I'm sure there was something, Lori, but nothing that
nothing springs to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's great. I think that's good for you. That means that, you didn't waste time going down the bad path, right? What about regrets or lessons learned as you look back on your journey? Is there something that would have made it easier, or that a lesson that you learned along the way that you wish you had known a little bit earlier?
Yeah. So I really didn't have any people management skills when I started, right? It was just me and I can manage myself. And then when I started growing and hiring people, I probably wasn't the best of managers and kind of ran my business loose, I would say. Like there weren't a lot of like, oh, well, you're due for your 6-month review or you're due. And maybe probably should have had a little more structure when it came to people management. But I absolutely had no background in people management. Now, my husband did, and that helped, asking questions or how did you handle this or how did you handle that? But I wish I had a little more experience or maybe a mentor on how to handle the management of people in a work environment. And I do wish that I had made some better decisions on hiring. I had at the very beginning, had a couple bad hires. I just didn't know better.
So what did you learn that helped you to hire better from then on?
We went part-time first, right? Until they could gain my trust. And I had confidence that they knew what they're doing. As a consultant, you're the expert, right? And there's not a lot of leeway for mistakes. And so you really have to be able to trust that person. And so I learned just, okay, let's work part-time and just see how that goes. And I don't know if you know this, all my hires were women. This was a women-only business.
Wow.
And what it ended up being that I really, really, really loved, and this probably answer a question down the line, but, I hired these women who were smart, who were married and had small children, and they wanted to use their brain, right?
Yeah.
And so giving them the opportunity to be a mom, be a wife, and be a career person all at the same time with a lot of flexibility. So very family orientated. Lori, hey, you've got a school event. Go do your school event. It's more important to me that you're there. And, if you only work 6 hours today but you get your job done, I don't care. Just get your job done.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I ran your business. Some people took advantage of that. And that was kind of those people skills I was talking about. But I would say most women really appreciated it. They appreciated the opportunity to not have to say, oh my gosh, can I leave an hour early today so I can pick up my kid from soccer or basketball or, whatever. I just didn't worry about things like that. And I think that was hugely successful with the women that ended up staying with me.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can't even imagine the type of environment that would be so women friendly at that stage. Nowadays, they are a little bit more women friendly, but back in the day,
not 40 years ago.
No, that is really forward thinking. So did you hire women only by design, or was it just the way it turned out?
That's the way it turned out. I always told the men, I said, no offense, men, about, not having any men in our firm, but it just happened that way. And I think women are better with details. And compliance is a very detailed business. And I'm not saying that there aren't men out there that are good. They're good compliance people. I just find that women, if you look at the field, I would say it's mainly women in the compliance area because we're better with details and juggling a lot of balls.
Some of those people skills you were talking about, I'm like, mom, that's right. That's what teaches you the people skills. So, and I think Sam does sometimes feel that way around here. I've managed to pack the place with really bright young ladies, and he sometimes is like, are we ever going to get any sort of male intern in here?
Sure, if they, they meet the bill.
Yeah, we did. We had Max last summer, but he does tend to be surrounded by women all the time. So, what if you could go back and you could talk to your 23, 26-year-old self as you're just starting on this journey, what would you tell her? What's one thing you would say to her?
Don't be afraid of risk.
Okay. Tell me about that.
I mean, it's a risk to buy a house at 23 and your mortgage payment is half your salary. It was a risk to leave a very secure job with benefits, with, everything, right? And start your own business. Because my thought was, if I failed and I didn't make it, I was still young enough I could get a job, I would recover, right? Mm-hmm. I would recover from that. But it's a risk. I mean, I look back on it now. I don't think I understood the risk when I was taking it. Maybe my dad did, but I look back and think, oh my gosh, was I absolutely crazed? At 26 to start my own business and 23 to buy my own house. But it's, kind of nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? Mm-hmm. It has to be it has to be a calculated risk. It just can't be some crazy, but, think through it, think the pros and the cons, and then go for it.
Yeah. So I've been reading a book recently. It was like Do It Scared. And her whole idea is sometimes you got to have a few butterflies in your tummy and still do it, and that's where you find the greatest reward, the most fulfillment, I think.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, you're right. Because there were butterflies. And, here's maybe a regret. When I first started out, I had a partner.
Oh.
And within months, this was some naivety. She couldn't get a credit card. Kim, why? She had no credit. Why do you have no credit? Okay. And we now know these things. And within 6 months, not even 5 months, she was stealing from the company. She was using the company credit card for her personal expenses. And I caught her. And I think that was the regret. Not that someone told me not to or to do that. And I think that's why I never really had a partner in my business, was because I had a really bad experience. Like all those experiences that people tell you, the horror stories of having a partner, I had that in the first 6 months at 26.
Oh, wow.
So that was very much a growing experience. And I survived it, right? But it was a learning lesson for sure.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you probably learned something from it. And it doesn't seem to have made you into a skeptic. Like, you still hired and trusted and had people help and helped them to grow there. What scared you the most when you started out? Was it the mortgage payment? Was it
paying my dad back? I had to pay my dad back $10,000. That was a lot of money, right? In the late 80s, and was starting your own business. I think that's what motivated that fear of making it so I could pay him back and not him being disappointed. So that's what kept me going, and that's what kept me up at night.
So you did it. How long did it take you?
Less than a year.
Oh my goodness. Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you find that you were, I have a hard time. My younger employees definitely are teaching me the idea of balance and, taking time out for myself and stuff like that. But how did you do that when you were 26 years old, owned your own business? Were you just crazy work day to night, or did you?
Right. I did. And I struggle with that. I think I come from a generation at a time where we probably didn't have good work balance. I learned it only after I had children, right? And then wanted to, I got home from the hospital with my first baby, and she's 2 days old, and I'm holding her in my office and working.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to get that work-life balance. And that's why I wanted to be able to provide that to other women, that, to be able to have a career and be a good wife and be there for your husband and be there for your children.
Yeah, that sense of mom guilt, I feel it. I'm sure other moms do, where they're like, I want to be there for my kids, but on the other hand, I was feeding 3 teenage boys and I wanted them to eat as well. So
right. And I'm kind of a workaholic, and so and just came from a family that we were hard workers, right? That's what we did. And you know what? And both my girls are really hard workers. So
all my kids too. You're preaching to the choir, but
right.
So how did you learn it? How did you learn that balance? I'm asking for a friend, right? How did you learn that balance? Was it just experience or doing it long enough?
It was, and dropping off your kid at daycare every day and being in tears, because you wanted to be with her, but yet you had work to do and you didn't want him in daycare. And so you eventually learn. And then, and my spouse was good in helping me to understand that as well. And also being your own boss, you have the flexibility if you want it, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't have a boss that said, no, you have to be here from X to Y. And then, oh, by the way, there's other projects that I need you to do at home. I didn't have that. So it was really self-imposed that I had to get around. And, as you well know, and the moms out there, the children help you learn that as well.
Yeah, you do want to be there. I've talked to a lot of my clients who, on that younger end of kids, and they struggle with, they want to be there for their kids and their family, but they also want to, they've started a career and they don't want to give up everything that they gained. I think that you had a really nice balance there for them to be able to do both. And I would love to see, my employees, but the world of young women at large have that experience.
And I think men are coming to that realization. So I obviously had a husband who let me have a career, let me be a mom. And I think men these days are better with that than maybe when I first started out 40 years ago. right?
Uh-huh.
And they're willing to, like, my husband cannot cook. Laura, you can't cook? I have time to chop, slice, and dice, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And, I keep saying to my girls who are now adults, make sure he knows how to cook.
Yeah.
Because I think men are better at understanding that they've got to do some of the women jobs. Okay, they're going to vacuum. They're going to have dinner ready. They're going to do the grocery shopping. I think this generation of men are more willing to do that and allow the woman to have a career, have a job, or help juggle all of that, right? It's two people juggling all that stuff versus just one.
Yeah, I see that in my son that just got married. It's a partnership with them. They each have their own spot, and there's not girl jobs and boy jobs in their house.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, things have changed. So I think that's good for women these days. I really do.
I agree. And maybe you kind of already went over this, but did you face any unique challenges because you were a woman?
Just getting hired. Obviously, I had to learn to sell myself, right? And you do get asked, well, are you going to have kids? Meaning, are you going to be here? Right? Are you going to, a lot of times people go into consulting as a interim job, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I made a career out of it. And so I think I did get some questions like, well, how long are you going to be around? Right? How long are you going to do this? Are you going to take the first job? Or when you have kids, will you, because you remember when I started, I didn't have family. I wasn't married. I didn't have children.
Yeah.
And I think people question that.
Uh-huh.
Now, will they do that now? I don't think so. I think the world has changed.
I actually think you would be surprised. I had a woman on my podcast who had gone through it. Maybe now it has changed, but when she was going through it, they still asked, are you going to have kids? Are you going to take time out of your career to do that? And that it is a unique situation until they figure out how to make my husband have the children.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, something that we uniquely deal with in a professional situation.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. It has gotten better, though, I will say. It has gotten. So what is the thing that you're most proud of?
Having a 35-year career in my own business.
Mm-hmm.
And, being self-employed, being successful, and then being able to make the women around me that I hired successful and confident in themselves, and being able to, saying, it's okay. It's okay. If you need to be at your kid's event, it's okay. Go, and just mentoring them to be successful.
You've had some really successful women that have gone on to, under your tutelage, learned the business and then gone on to create their own businesses and be successful in their families and their lives as well.
Yes. Yes. And so that makes you feel good, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that at some point you start looking around and saying, what am I going to leave in this world behind me? How am I going to impact and leaving it better than I found it? And I definitely think you've achieved that with
thank
your
you.
success. So any advice for young women starting down this path? They are definitely starting down a different path than you started down.
Yes. And, my advice to young people is, as we talked about work ethic, is a work ethic. You work until you get your job done. If it's 5:00 and you're saying, well, it's 5:00, I got to go. No, to really make yourself shine. And I don't think it's hard to do with these kids that are coming up, is to go over and above the call of duty. You don't say, oh, that's not my job, right? Okay, how can I help? I don't know how to do this, but I'll figure it out. And going the extra mile. And I think that's what my employees were not always young, right? I wasn't hiring the 20-somethings.
Yeah.
Again, because we're the experts. So I needed people that
had some
experience. But that's what I'm hearing from my friends, that even that are running a financial services firm. Oh, these young kids, they don't know how to work. They don't know, it's 5:00 and they leave and they, they'll say it's not my job. I think if a young person doesn't have that mentality, and has a really good work ethic, they will go very far. I will brag on my youngest daughter, who's only 24. After 6 months of working, she's in the construction business. Her boss pulled us aside and said, her work ethic is like none I've ever seen. And again, because I said that we brought our kids up to have really strong work ethics, as my dad did. And that gets noticed. It gets noticed.
It does. That sense of responsibility, they take care of what needs to be taken care of, and they take care of clients.
Right.
Yeah. My kids have said that. I grew up on a ranching family in Wyoming.
Yes.
So there is no such thing as bedtime or wake
a day off.
Yeah, there's none of those sorts of things. My grandpa, he fed the cows till the day he died, and so yeah, so it's that sort of a work ethic that's passed down. But I would like them to have a little bit more balance than I have in my. I would like them to come to that. Work hard, but take time for your family too.
Right. And have an employer that will do that.
Yes.
Give you that time. But
Exactly.
you work hard. Like I was saying, I mean, I would let them go and, do a kids event or whatever. But you know what? I'm getting emails at 10 o'clock at night from my employees because they needed to get their work done. And I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Just get your work done. Go take the time you need to be with your family, but get your work done. And that they did.
Yeah.
They did.
And that as a mom, I would have appreciated that, because I had hours at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day that I could work, but there were no professional positions that would let me work those hours. I had to be there from 9 to 5.
Yeah. Doesn't work.
Yeah. So, well, we're going to make it a better world for those coming up, right?
Yes, we are, aren't we? I love it.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Kim. I really appreciate it. It was just lovely listening to your experience.
No, it's great to talk. I love it.
So,
I like you're doing this too, Lori. I really appreciate that you've made it your passion as well.
Well, I didn't know it was going to be my passion, but turned into it.